All right. Welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports Game Reaction. We're recording this maybe an hour after the game versus Tulane ended. Um, just watched the Brent Venables press conference. So a lot of things are still fresh in our minds. Probably going to be some emotional reactions coming, not, but mostly logical, hopefully. Before we get into anything that happened in that game, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought about this Tulane game. We did end up covering, as Brandon is probably going to mention a couple times in this video.
Oh, I'm gonna mention
Uh,
them.
so that is a good thing. And then follow us on all social media and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Links are down below. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Brandon because we were just talking about it and I kind of cut him off before he got on a roll. What did you think about the Tulane game and how Oklahoma looked for game three?
So there's a couple. I mean, obviously, good teams win, great teams cover. We're gonna start there, and we definitely covered. Doesn't matter if it's a backdoor cover; it all counts the same. You covered. Now, I think you have defensively. Again, you look really great. The defense again kept them in it for the majority of the second half. The defense gave up 12 points because one of their scores was a pick six. So the defense holds Tulane to 12, a team that scored 27 on Kansas State. You feel really, really, really good about that. The pick six is a play that could be game changing next week against Tennessee. You can't make that mistake against Tennessee. I understand what Jackson Arnold's trying to do there. That's when the offense was really starting to just roll down a hill of shit. He sidestepped a sack, tried to make a play, really forced the ball though. Easy pick six. He probably should have just fell on it, taken the sack. And it sucks. He's trying to get something going, just end up punting it, and then you're still up by 11 and make their offense score because they really weren't moving the ball very well. Again, they only scored 12 points as an offense. So I think you gotta kind of eat that. But again, I get it. But I mean, I think throughout the whole game wise, you look really good in the first half. You're up 21-0. Offense is finally finding some running game. The offensive line looks decent. You kind of have some hope, but then Oklahoma does what Oklahoma does. Lets everybody back in it. Like Brent Venables mentioned in his press conference, that fourth and goal, man, from the 10, 8, 9 yard line, whatever it was, you can't give that up. That really hurts. If you get a stop there, you really feel like you can pick right back up where you left off in the first half and kind of start running them out, kind of run them out of the stadium, which is what we all wanted to see, obviously. But I mean, at the end of the day, Billy Bowman gets the pick in a crucial moment. Jackson Arnold makes a great play on third down to score a touchdown to, kind of make you feel pretty comfortable at 12 with about 6 minutes left. And then R. Mason Thomas goes legacy game mode with 2 sacks and a pass deflection on that ensuing Tulane drive, gets the ball back. And then from there, the rest is history. I mean, you feel a lot better this week than you did against Houston, obviously. You scored 34 points, held them to under 20. A lot of positives, but I mean, there's still a lot of things that need improvement if you're going to beat Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean this game I think the offensive line looked okay. Tarquin is a
Shit.
gigantic liability.
Sucks so bad.
Hopefully Jake Taylor's ready to go for next week because if it's the other four plus Jake Taylor on the right side, I think that line itself probably not winning the Joe Moore Award, but they're not that bad. Like
Plus,
this guy,
Hickman could come back next week, and he's the guy that
yeah,
looked like he had a chance to go in this game.
yep. So injuries might finally start dwindling and not being as impactful for Oklahoma. If Hickman does come back, Jake Taylor comes back for next week, and then I know Howland made some mistakes in the game, but I'd rather see him for someone that hasn't played much football for this team and really at all in his collegiate career make those mistakes and then watch him progress than like Tarquin get moved to the left tackle because he's just going to constantly make those mistakes. He's done it his entire career. You're kind of just hoping that teach an old dog new tricks kind of thing. That's just not going to happen. He makes mistakes regardless, and he's a guy that you'd rather have as a second stringer when something bad comes up because he's good enough to serve as a backup, but not in all things perfectly. Everyone's healthy. I think, and respectfully, you go for someone else. Like those, both of those illegal formation flags on him. The first one, he was definitely off. But after one, you're like, okay, let me double check where I'm lining myself up, regardless of how you might think it's bullshit or unfair, but that's how the refs are calling it. So figure out where you're lining up, and then don't do that shit again, so that you're not tempting the ref because it was basically so it got called, and I think it was only like one or two plays after he got called for it again. So like you got to know what you're doing there.
Well, I think the thing that happened there is I agree with that penalty. An offensive lineman lining up in the backfield is cheating. He's giving himself an advantage. I think he was being beat. He was getting beat so damn bad that he was literally trying to cheat, and credit to him. If you're getting beat, you got to figure something out. I mean, he was trying, but unfortunately that's not allowed. If it was, maybe it would have worked. But I mean, Tarquin cannot play next week, especially if he's the guy that's going to match up with Pierce. If it's Tarquin versus Pierce one-on-one, Jackson Arnold might not survive that game. Like he might be stretchered out. That's Pierce is going to tear him apart. That's something that can't happen. We need Jake Taylor. I think next week you gotta play Taylor and maybe even keep a tight end back and at all times kind of try to double that guy. Just live with tight end not going out on a route, especially if you get Nick Anderson back. If you get Nick Anderson back, I think you can play a tight end in a lot more pass pro type situations.
Yep, and that's something else I was going to bring up. In the pass game, they don't really stretch the ball down the field at all since all these injuries have been happening. I mean, Jalil was for a half of a game was the deep threat that was relied on, and obviously not going to be playing for most of the season. Nick Anderson hasn't played any, but you expect him to be a deep threat. For whatever reason, Brendan Thompson and Jackson Arnold just can't make a connection there for any deep balls. You know, no one really knows the answer to that other than those two guys and trying to figure something out there. The only weapons that we have in the passing game are Deion Burks for 70% of the passes, and then either Bauer Sharp or Jake Roberts. And the tight ends are good. I'm happy that they're getting involved, but without another wide receiver option, it like as Grubbs, the linebacker for Tulane, probably knew as soon as Jackson gonna was gonna be under pressure, his first look was Deion Burks. So it was an easy read for the linebacker for that pick six because he was under pressure and immediately his eyes went to Deion. Let me just try to throw it away there to my most reliable and only receiver. Pick six.
That's a young
There's got
quarterback.
to be more
Yeah,
options.
that's a young quarterback. Fourth start of his career out of the Arizona game. Fourth start of his career, Titan State. And again, I mean, I get it. We're up 24-13 there, but everything's spiraling downhill. He doesn't want to take another sack. He wants to try to get something done. Unfortunately, you have to just fall on that. You have to accept that your line sold you again. Just fall on it, punt your defense because they've been playing really well. You have to do that. But I mean, Nick comes back. You have another weapon, Andrell. I mean, he's still a guy that you need to get back because then you have three, and then Farouk eventually does down the line come back. Week 8 or 9, this offense is going to look totally different. The problem is you have to be relevant by week 8 or 9
Yeah.
for it to mean anything. And again, I think if you play like you do in the first half of this game for 60 minutes, you 100% have a chance to beat Tennessee as good as they look right now. I was talking to one of my coworkers. I think the formula for Oklahoma is going to be score 30 plus and hold the other team to under 30 or kind of under 20, kind of what you did today. And I think you feel really good. The offense doesn't have to be spectacular. It doesn't have to be the Big 12 offense is hanging 50 plus. You just don't shoot yourself in the foot, sustain some drives, and just kind of be consistent. I mean, you can't look great in the first half and then come out in the second half and shit all over yourself and forget what you're doing offensively. I think Jackson Arnold has to do a lot of what he did in the first half against Tennessee. He was making some fantastic decisions on those read option type plays. He hit Tulane with a big one. Going back to the deep ball thing, just to backtrack, I mean, I would like to see them push the ball on the field more. And there was one drive where they did. One pass went to Deion Burks. He actually caught it, but he was out of bounds. I think that was terrible spacing. We had two guys running a deep ball kind of like 5 yards apart from each other, and the ball was just way too much to the sideline. Deon Burks caught it, but it doesn't matter if you're out of bounds. And then I think the next player, the play after, he had Jaquez Bedway. He had Jaquez Bedway and he threw it to him and he overthrew him, but just by a little bit. But if you hit that there, it's probably a touchdown. And that's something that again puts the game kind of how to reach earlier, and you miss on that because there's a guy in his face again in 1 second, and that really hurts. But there's a couple plays, man. I think that Jaquez Petaway one is one. Obviously, giving up a touchdown on 4th and goal from the 9, you can't have that happen. I also think that Tulane should have been hit with grounding early in the first half, and that I think also might change the outlook of this game just a little bit. But yeah, I mean that's ticky tacky, but that's the game. I mean, there's a couple plays that didn't go our way that I think if you do, you beat them by a lot more.
Outside of that Jaquez deep shot attempt, can you think of one that happened after that? Because I really can't. I think it was all within 10 yards, and
After
I don't
that,
know why they
no.
would try to make
And
it
that's
count.
and that's I think Tulane realized that too, and that's when they kind of just started pinning their ears back and sending everybody because we're not taking any shots down the field. At that point, they kind of shut down the run game again. So they were like, all they're going to do is run these little drags and curls and short routes. We're just going to blitz everybody. And like you said, that linebacker is a smart player. He knows if Jackson's in trouble, he's going to go Deon Burks, and that's exactly what happened. And that's a pick six. And that's something you cannot do against Tennessee, against Alabama, against Ole Miss. That's going to lose you games, especially a game like this where you're up 21-0, and you kind of let them back in. That's going to happen against Tennessee, against Alabama. If this team could get up big, big of 14 or something, 13. Tennessee's going to come back. Alabama's going to come back. They're going to make it interesting. The plays like that are the plays that kill you in against teams like that, and you can't do that.
Yeah, I think through 3 games, this defense has looked exactly as we all hoped, and if anything, maybe even better than we hoped because they really haven't let many things by them. They had their lapses and miscommunications, yes, but I mean today they only let 13 get scored on them
12.
versus a good
It was
12.
21-6
You're
at
right.
half.
You're right.
Yeah.
12. Yeah, 12, 12, 12. I included the extra point. My bad. Yeah, 12 get scored on them. Um, and they held a good, and that's a good offense. I mean, their quarterback Mensa was coming into this game after having an almost 350-yard performance versus Kansas State. So this defense is right about on par where we all wanted to be and hope for it to be, and maybe even better than we thought it could be. Uh, Hopefully, more turnovers start happening,
They had 2
but
today.
they're yeah, but earlier in the game, I mean
They also
the
dropped a couple picks today. I think Kenai
they
Walker
did.
dropped one. I thought Billy Bowman had a chance at the end of the half there. Like whenever Ty Thompson first threw that ball, I thought it was a pick, and then
God, I hoped.
their tight end got way up, made a play, but
Mhm.
you were in position a lot of times for a turnover. Luckily, they did it twice. Our Mason Thomas, we got to give that guy a shout out. He literally went legacy mode with the game on the line. If he would have made that one play to get the sack, get the fumble, pick it up, and score, that would have been one of the coolest plays I think I've ever seen a D lineman make. Unfortunately, that fat ass from Tulane had to tackle him, but that was great effort out there. Really, really, really cool to see. I think, you have Grayson Halton who won the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week last week. I think our Mason Thomas is going to win it this week. So next week it's got to be Dominic Williams or something. You just keep that streak alive, and you're going to be in a lot of good games.
Yeah, yeah, and that the defensive line today, our Mason Thomas, yeah, at the end of the game, like helped clinch it for sure. If anything, he was the person that clinched the game for Oklahoma. But the defensive line looked good throughout the entire game. Maybe they definitely weren't getting sacks up until the end there. But it's also because situationally, once you start let Tulane get back in the game, their offense was just more efficient. It wasn't as predictable. Right, rather at the end when we were where when our mates Thomas did get all his stacks, as Brent Venables said, it was obvious passing situations. We knew that he knew and we knew we could just send him out there, go after the passer, do whatever you have to do to get there. Like you don't have to worry about um, the running back or play action like this, they are throwing the ball. So pin your ears back and go. Rather, earlier in the game, that wasn't the case. Even in the first half, when we were up 21-0, still early in the game, they're gonna try to open up their playbook, do whatever they have to do to try to get points on the board. Like you mentioned, eventually they did at the end of the first half, but this defense is doing their job. It's the offense inconsistent. It's weird. We've flipped a whole 180 from where we used to be. Now the offense is the inconsistent one, and the defense is lights out practically for what a defense can be. I know people are going to say, well, they didn't shut them out. Well, you're not really going to shut out most people. At the end of the day, especially a team like Tulane, you can't just look at the brand. This team is good. If they won this game somehow, they were probably in a good spot to be in the 12-team playoff this
I
season.
still think
So
they've got a chance. If they finish the season 10-2, which I think they're very capable of, I think they're still right there. It's the highest ranked group of five that ultimately gets in. Boise State is looking good right now with one loss to an Oregon team, but if Boise State drops another one, which that's very possible. I think Tulane's a team that's right there in the end that has a chance. And then if Tulane's a playoff team, you look back on this and go, we beat them by 15 and didn't even play our best game, and that's a pretty good feeling. I thought just another thought here. I think that throwback play that Taylor Tatum, him trying to throw back to Jackson Arnold there. I thought that was a great play call. I loved it. I think it was actually there too when you look at the replay. It looked like Jackson had a big seam. I think Tatum had to maybe just hold on just an extra second, or even just just throw the ball better a little bit back, because Jackson had to kind of come back to it, and that allowed the Tulane player to come back and make a play. But I think a good throwback there, and Jackson's going to walk in. Luckily, it didn't matter because the next play, Jackson Arnold made something happen with his legs and scored a touchdown. But I mean, I think that throwback was going to work.
yeah, I think going back to the offense, the play calling wasn't really an issue today. It was definitely just poor execution from various spots of on the team. Either the offensive line just wasn't communicating, or they couldn't execute in the run game. And really, the entire third quarter was the problem. If you remove the third quarter, let them replay that, this is probably a much bigger gap
Yeah, I mean,
in
yeah,
victory.
the third quarter is where you get with that fourth and goal touchdown. You had a good opening drive out of the third quarter. Yeah, it didn't result in a touchdown, but you got a field goal to go 24-6. And again, that's when they scored on that fourth and goal. If you get a stop there, you're up 24-6. Not great field position, but I mean, you'll take the stop. Every day of the week. Um, yeah, there's a lot of promising things. I think you found your two back set right now, at least for the time being. Gavin Sawchuk's a really patient runner, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Le'Veon Bell made a career out of that. The problem with Taylor with Gavin Sawchuk's running style is this offensive line is not allowing that to be a thing right now, where you have Javonte Barnes and Taylor Tatum who are getting the ball and just hitting it right away. They're going north and south as soon as they get the ball, and that right now is what's going to work.
Yeah.
I think you found your two back set. Again, you get Nick back next week, especially if you get Hickman back. The defense, as good as they look today, didn't even have Gentry Williams out there, who I think is the best corner on this team when he's out there. There's a lot of improvements to be made, and a lot of it's going to come down to just getting dudes back. And if you listen to Brent Venables' presser, I think we're closer and closer to that.
Yeah, I agree. The last thing I'll mention that I think 100% needs to be cleaned up outside of Tarquin just being a dipshit with his poor alignment there is the delay of game on the um,
The
on the
kick
field
play,
goal attempt.
yeah,
Like, you got to be more aware there, fellas. It didn't happen again, luckily, but it shouldn't have happened in the first
or
place.
even
I
burning
don't know if
time
that
out
was.
there. Like
Yeah,
I get that first and foremost is definitely on the players. They've got to be aware of the clock there and get the snap off. But I mean, if you're on the sideline there, you're watching the clock too. You got to burn a timeout and give yourself a chance to kick that, because he belted it. He was right down the middle on it. I think what sucks about that is on that third down play before that kick, Javonte Barnes kind of dropped a swing pass, and I think if he catches that, he's got a first down, which keeps the drive alive, obviously, and gets you a chance for a touchdown. There's
yeah,
again a lot of missed opportunity in that game, and you still win by 15 and you cover.
100%. It's gonna be the next week is gonna be fun. We'll see what ends up happening with all the injuries over the next week or so. Step in the right direction for the offense. Maybe again, I think week 2 was 100% the South Florida game for comparing it to Alabama's 2023 season and Oklahoma's 2024 season so far. Week 2 was just a fluke.
That was
Injuries are
all.
definitely impacting this team 100%. If we had a fully healthy team, it would be. I hope it would be better. I think if it's not better, then that's a real issue. But when you start getting, I mean, we saw it today. You had healthier players, and on the offensive line, last thought there is also like hopefully today showed Coach B a little bit of what we talked about in our video on Friday. You got to trust your recruiting, man. Like Josh Bates played good. Like he did give up one sack and it was in a really bad moment, but for the most part, like he played a good game. He caught the Tulane players offsides 2 or 3 times, snapping the ball right at the right time where it was a free play for Oklahoma. Howland had some mental errors, but that was his first ever start. It might have been like his first really significant playing time when it wasn't garbage time, and it really didn't matter if he had mental errors out there. Um, so like those two guys need to get more playing time. Sexton, has been playing there. Hopefully Jake Taylor's back, and really no way is the only transfer that you have. There's really any value in right now. And if he were to go down, like throw in one of the other guys you recruited because they're doing exactly what you want them to do. You are developing them. You got to trust what you're doing and stop going to the transfer portal every season.
I mean, I agree. I think Eddie Curley is a guy that I banged the table for during our last video. I think he's a guy that we still need to see. He could have that immediate Caden Green like impact if he's on the field. I think he's capable. We gotta give him a chance. I mean, but yeah, overall 34-19, Sooners win, Sooners cover, content. Much better this week. You play like you did in the first half. You don't take a whole quarter off, a quarter and a half essentially, because they weren't good until 5 or 6 minutes ago in the fourth. So if you don't take a quarter and a half off against Tennessee, you're going to be in that game. You're going to be in that game. It's home. It's night. Crowd's going to be rocking. You're going to be there. You're going to be in it. I think, it's going to be fun. Like you said, we're going to be there. So if you guys are in Norman and you see us at a tailgate, come bring us a beer. We'll definitely drink with you. And go Sooners, man.
It's going to be 3-0. You just got to win the next one. That's all you got to worry about at this point. Win one week, move on to the one after that. Don't got to worry about all 12 at once. Let us. I think that's the end of this video. Brandon, do you have any more thoughts before we wrap it up?
That's it for me.
All right. Uh, wrapping up the video. Make sure to comment in the comment section down below. Let us know what you thought about the Tulane game, what you hope to see, what you didn't like to see in this Tulane game, and what you hope to see in the Tennessee game. So overall thoughts. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you know when we post our next video. Follow us, all the links down below in the description. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.